I always thought losing a job would be the worst thing that could ever happen to me, until I realized how I lost it. One moment I was preparing for a meeting, and the next, I was being escorted out of the building like a criminal. No explanation, no reason, just cold faces and whispered conversations behind closed doors. But what none of them expected was that I wasn't going to disappear quietly. When a federal agent got involved and read my contract, everything changed. What was meant to silence me ended up exposing a truth powerful enough to shake the entire company. The day started like any other, coffee in hand, inbox full, and a long list of tasks waiting for me. I had no idea my entire life was about to twist in a direction I could never have predicted. Around noon, my manager sent me a vague message. "Can you come to HR for a quick discussion?" I didn't think much of it, maybe a project update, maybe a new assignment. But when I walked into that room, the atmosphere was heavy, tense, almost rehearsed. HR avoided my eyes. My manager stayed silent. And with a flat voice, they informed me I was terminated effective immediately. No warning, no reason, no explanation. Security walked me out like I was dangerous. I was humiliated, angry, confused. But I didn't know then that this wasn't a simple firing. It was a cover-up, and the truth behind it was about to attract federal attention. I arrived at work that morning thinking about deadlines and presentations, not knowing that by noon I'd no longer have a job. Everything felt normal at first. My co-workers greeted me, we exchanged jokes, and I got busy with my tasks. But around 10:30 a.m., I noticed something strange. My manager kept walking past my desk without speaking. HR kept glancing in my direction, whispering among themselves. I tried to ignore it, thinking maybe it was just a stressful day. Then the message came. "Can you come to HR for a quick talk?" Nothing prepares you for that sinking feeling, that cold weight in your chest. Still, I walked in calmly. Inside the room sat HR's head, my manager, and an unfamiliar security officer standing near the door. The moment I saw him, I knew something was wrong. HR slid a folder towards me. "We're terminating your employment effective immediately." I stared at them, expecting at least a reason, poor performance, misconduct, anything. But there was nothing, just blank, robotic faces. My manager couldn't even look at me. "Why?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "We're not obliged to discuss that," HR said. My hands shook with anger. Am I being accused of something? Silence. Instead, the security guard stepped forward and said, "You need to gather your belongings." The humiliation burned through me as I was escorted past co-workers who watched with mixed expressions, shock, confusion, and pity. I wasn't even allowed to touch my work computer. They handed me a cardboard box with my things already thrown inside. Outside the building, I stood under the harsh sun, trying to breathe. None of it made sense. I had no warnings, no complaints, no mistakes big enough to justify this. Something was hidden, something deliberate. Within hours, a co-worker secretly messaged me. "Someone powerful ordered your firing, I'll explain later." That was the moment I knew this wasn't over. Someone had messed with the wrong person, and soon the law would get involved. Later that evening, I met the co-worker who had messaged me. He looked nervous, constantly checking over his shoulder. "Listen," he whispered, "I shouldn't even be telling you this, but the firing wasn't HR's decision." My stomach tightened. Then whose decision was it? The CEO's son. I almost laughed until I realized he wasn't joking. He explained that the CEO's son, Daniel, had recently been given a leadership position he didn't earn. Everyone knew he wasn't qualified, but nobody dared question it. Apparently, he had been trying to assert his so-called authority by micromanaging departments he didn't understand, mine included. 2 days before I was fired, I had corrected him during a meeting. Politely, professionally, but publicly. He had suggested a method that violated data security guidelines. I explained why it wasn't allowed. He didn't say anything at the time, but my co-worker told me he was furious afterward. "He thinks you embarrassed him," my co-worker said. "And?" I asked. He ordered your termination the same day. No performance review, no justification, just pure ego. It felt unreal. I had been fired because a spoiled, incompetent man-child couldn't handle being corrected, but that wasn't even the worst part. My co-worker added, "There's something else. Your contract, it has special clauses, federal clauses." My heart raced. Months ago, the company had received a government grant, and employees working on that project, including me, had special protections in their contracts. Legal protections, federal protections. And firing someone on that grant required documentation, warnings, and justification that Daniel completely bypassed. Suddenly, everything clicked. I hadn't just been fired illegally, I had been fired in a way that violated federal regulations. "Did HR know?" I asked. "They tried to warn him," he said. "He ignored them. He thinks his father's position protects him." That night, I read through my contract carefully. The clauses were clear. Any unjustified termination without due process during the grant project was a federal offence. They didn't just break a rule, they broke the law. And I knew exactly what I was going to do next. The next morning, I filed a formal complaint with the federal office overseeing the grant. I attached my contract, a detailed statement, and the timeline. I didn't expect a reply so fast, but within 48 hours, I received a phone call. "This is Agent Collins," the voice said. "I reviewed your complaint. I need to meet you in person." When a federal agent says that, you show up. We met at a small government office. Agent Collins was calm, professional, and sharp. He scanned my contract page by page, highlighting sections as he read. Every few minutes he would pause, shake his head, and write notes. Finally, he looked at me and said, "You understand the seriousness of this, right?" "I do," I said. "He fired me illegally." "It's far more than that," the agent replied. He explained that the project I worked on was funded under a federal compliance program with strict rules. Any termination under that project required a multi-step review, written warnings, and documentation, none of which happened. "Your contract was protected," he said. "This wasn't just mishandled, this was a direct violation of federal employment law." Then he asked the question that changed everything. "Do you mind if I contact your company?" "Please do," I said, almost smiling. The agent nodded a good. Because based on what I see, the CEO's son not only abused his authority, he interfered with a federally regulated contract. That's grounds for an investigation. Within hours, the agent sent an official notice to the company. HR panicked. I later learned they scrambled, trying to gather documents they didn't have. Daniel tried to claim he had verbal complaints against me, but the agent demanded proof. None existed. By the next day, the company was under federal review. Meetings were cancelled, lawyers were brought in, and employees were questioned. Word spread quickly. People whispered that the CEO's son was losing it behind closed doors. Agent Collins updated me. They're trying to cover up his decision, but the timestamps, the emails, and the missing paperwork prove they broke the law. For the first time since being fired, I felt relief. Justice was officially in motion. A week later, the federal agent called me back to the office. When I arrived, he handed me a written summary of the findings. The company had committed multiple violations, including unauthorized termination of a federally protected employee, tampering with required documentation, and mismanagement under the grant. But the most important part, Daniel, the CEO's son, had personally signed the termination order without proper authority, bypassing HR and legal protocols. Agent Collins told me, "This level of negligence can't be ignored. There will be consequences." The consequences came faster than I expected. The company received a formal notice of violation, followed by a federal audit. Investors panicked. The board of directors held an emergency meeting, and within days, news broke internally. Daniel had been removed from his position and placed under investigation. Co-workers began messaging me, shocked at how quickly everything unraveled. One wrote, "You have no idea how many people are cheering for you right now." Another said, "AHR is relieved too. They hated how he abused his power." Then came the part I never saw coming. The company reached out to me through their legal team, offering full reinstatement back pay, a formal apology, additional compensation for damages. But I didn't want my old job back, not after what they allowed to happen. Instead, with my lawyer's help, I negotiated a settlement that secured my financial stability for years. The company agreed quickly. They needed to make the problem disappear before the audit report went public. As for Daniel, the investigation found he had misused authority multiple times, and his actions jeopardized the company's federal funding. The board had no choice but to suspend him permanently. In the end, I wasn't just vindicated, I was victorious. Standing outside the building that once forced me out, I felt something powerful. Closure. I learned that people in high positions may think they're untouchable. They may think they can ruin someone's life with a signature. But when they break the law, especially federal law, their power means nothing. Justice didn't just speak, it roared.